This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Thursday, the 3rd day of January in the year 2019. Here's what we're tracking tonight. Speaker of the National Assembly, Dr. Barton Scotland, this afternoon decided to stay away from reconsidering the resolution of the no-confidence motion and instead tossed the contentious issues regarding the no-confidence motion and vote over to the court, saying that the Assembly will be guided by the court's ruling.
Where, as in these instances before us, there are different, even competing views of certain provisions of the Constitution, as well as certain interrelated provisions of the Constitution, all of which fall to be examined, the Speaker on this occasion, and without more, declines the invitation to act in reversal. Full, final, and complete settlement of these issues by a court of competent jurisdiction will place beyond doubt any question which may exist and serve to give guidance to the Speaker and to the National Assembly for the future.
In response to a request from the government seeking a reversal of the resolution of the no-confidence motion, Mr. Scotland said he received advice both solicited and unsolicited from various jurisdictions on the issue.
During the last week or 2 weeks perhaps, I have received from diverse sources information, both solicited and unsolicited, supported by case law and practice, emanating from other jurisdictions, which has raised doubts as to whether the no confidence motion was carried, and properly so, by the margin of vote. The information which I have received raises two issues. The first of these included a claim supported by several cases that the requirement for the successful passing of a no-confidence motion is a majority of the elected members of the National Assembly. That majority, it is contended, was to be formed by a mathematical half of the elected membership of the National Assembly, which is 65, plus the vote of one other member. Such a formula would require a majority of 34 votes instead of 33.
He said while he has the power to reverse the no-confidence resolution, he believes the issues related to its passage might be best addressed outside the Assembly, referring to the courts.
Honourable members, in treating with this matter, I have made every effort to present it to you as fully as I did, in the hope that it will assist in your understanding of the matter and enable our fellow citizens to understand the issues.
The Speaker's decision is likely to see both the government and the opposition approaching the courts for a final ruling on whether the no-confidence motion was properly passed. The government's position is that the motion was not properly passed, since it believes a majority of 34 seats were needed for a majority passage. The opposition's contention is that 33 votes represent the majority of the 65-member parliament. This afternoon, the Minister of Legal Affairs and Attorney General Basil Williams said the government will be moving to the courts immediately.
We're going to fight several actions. The first one is to turn that classification to disqualification. That would be filed between now and the moment. By Mr. McKee. And the other limb will be filed shortly after.
What is the other limb?
That the majority was not obtained. The representative majority within Article 166.
More news coming up in just a moment.
Get ready to ride it, ready to ride it, ride it, ride it.
start construction perfection.
Ride the new wave of excitement sweeping Guyana. Wave Pale Ale, a premium, full-bodied, strong and refreshing alcoholic brew, crafted to perfection for a bold, young, radical you. Don't settle for anything less. Catch a Wave Pale Ale and ride it today.
Wave Pale Ale.
Crafted to perfection.
Roam like you're home, because prepaid means more with GTT. Travel to any GTT roam zone in the US, Canada, Caribbean, Latin America, or South America, and pay the same great rates to use your data from foreign as you do when you're home. With GTT, prepaid means more, so roam like you're home with GTT, Guyana's preferred roaming network.
Welcome back. Well, as promised, the opposition People's Progressive Party Civic did not appear in the National Assembly today. In a letter dispatched to the House Speaker yesterday, Opposition Chief Whip Gail Teixeira expressed the party's contention to boycott today's sitting, which she deemed unconstitutional. And that was exactly what the party did. Its 32 seats remained vacant at the start of today's proceedings, even as the Speaker called the session to order and swore in a new government member of Parliament, Barbara Patricia Pilgrim, who replaces Sharon Das Posada. The Speaker also informed the House that the opposition made a request to be excused from today's sitting. A number of items were addressed during the sitting, including several amendment bills. The parliamentary opposition is of the view that the National Assembly should only meet to decide on general elections, which have been triggered by the passage of the no-confidence motion. But the Speaker continued with business as usual today.
For ease of reference, I set out here, honorable members, that provision. It reads as follows: notwithstanding its defeat, the government shall remain in office, and they shall hold an election within 3 months or such longer period as the National Assembly shall by resolution supported by not less than 2/3 of the votes of all the elected members of the Assembly determine, and shall resign after the President takes the oath of office following the election.
Following the Speaker's decision today not to review the no-confidence motion, he continued today to address several government amendment bills and issues related to the National Assembly. Let's tell you now that Foreign Affairs Minister Carl Greenwich today briefed the National Assembly on Venezuela's recent incursion into Guyana's waters to interfere with the work of an ExxonMobil contracted research vessel. In offering details on the interference by the Venezuelan Navy, the minister explained that an attempt was even made by the Venezuelans to land a helicopter on the vessel.
A reckless attempt was made by the Venezuelans to land a helicopter on the deck of one of the vessels, the Ramford Thetis. That vessel was flagged by the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and had a total of 70 crew members on board, including the captain. It was intercepted in the exclusive economic zone and the continental shelf of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana at an approximate distance of 140 kilometers from the nearest point to the provisional equidistant line with Venezuela.
He said a standoff ensued and Venezuela attempted to get the vessel to travel over to its side.
It stated that Venezuela's threat and use of force to impede Guyana's exercise of sovereign rights in its exclusive economic zone is a manifest violation of the Charter of the United Nations and general international law. Concerned for the security of the crew of the vessel, and in keeping with its international obligations, Guyana also informed the several governments of the 70 crew members, including China and the USA, whose safety had been endangered.
Mr. Greenwich said he has noted that Venezuela has indicated that it is open to dialogue. However, he made it clear that dialogue cannot take place under such threats.
Guyana calls on its sister republic to immediately withdraw its unilateral decree, cease all uses and threats of military force against unarmed civilian vessels duly licensed by Guyana to engage in offshore exploratory activities, present its case before the ICJ, and, in due course, commit to accepting the court's judgment on the validity of the 1899 arbitral award and the location of the land boundary. Guyana has informed Venezuela that it will not be intimidated by the heightened hostility by that country as we continue to pursue our economic development agenda.
Guyana has informed the United Nations and other members of the international community about the latest act of aggression by Venezuela. Turning to the world of mining right now, Guyana Goldfields has announced the appointment of former U.S. Ambassador to Guyana Perry Holloway as the company's senior vice president in charge of strategy and corporate affairs. His appointment took effect on the 1st of January. In a statement, the company said Mr. Holloway is a career diplomat with more than 30 years of international experience in Latin America and the Caribbean, focusing on government relations, business advocacy, management and business programs, development and security. Most recently, he was the U.S. Ambassador to Guyana and CARICOM. He also served in Colombia, El Salvador, Ecuador, Guatemala, Mexico, Paraguay, and Afghanistan. Mr. Holloway holds a Master's in International Business Sciences from the University of South Carolina and a Master's in National Resource Strategy from the Industrial College of the Armed Forces. President and CEO of Guyana Goldfields, Scott Caldwell, said the company is pleased that Perry Holloway will be joining its team. The company said he brings to the table an intimate working knowledge of Guyana, the government, and its people from the time he served as the U.S. ambassador. And finally tonight, after being on the run for 4 years in neighboring Suriname, 21-year-old Nathan Anthony Stout was arrested and remanded to jail today for the murder of Shanice Khan Bola. The woman was killed during a robbery back in 2014. The accused appeared in court today before the chief magistrate and was unrepresented. He was not required to enter a plea to the capital offense of murder. The court heard it between the 26th and 27th of February 2014 at Rock Creek, Mazaruni River. He murdered Bola while robbing her. He did not offer any statement before the court today and was immediately remanded to prison until the 17th of January, when the case will be moved to the Bartica court. According to the police, the man was nabbed based on intelligence gathering and several tips from the public. He was tracked down and arrested on Old Year's Night in Berbice. The accused reportedly worked for the victim in the gold mining area and attacked and robbed her when the two were alone in the shop. The woman's body was discovered the following day. It took 4 years to arrest the suspect. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. Gordon Mosley reporting.